What's up, guys? It's Cal Marquez. Thank you so much for joining me again on another episode of the Astral podcast. Here's peace, here's love, here's life. I hope you guys are doing well. Blessings. Just thank you. I'm glad you guys are here. It's been a minute. I was out of commission for a little bit, but I bounced back. I hadn't been sick in like 2 years, so this one really hit me. But other than that, we're good. We're healthy. Thank you guys for all the well wishes. I appreciate it. And all the people who've been new and checking out the channel, thank you guys for joining me so much. I've got a friend on today, Robert. He's a frequent member of the channel. He's someone who's got information on awakening, psychedelics, just a whole plethora of experiences. And you guys know that I love to chat and just have conversations with people. And that's something that I want to offer to the viewers, people listening, people watching, is just an authentic conversation between two spiritual people. So I am still kind of under the weather, so if my voice sounds a little weird, there's that. But I love you guys are ready to get into this thing, so I'm going to turn it over to Rob. Rob, just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us about your awakening journey.
It's good to see you're doing better. That's for sure. I know we've been waiting to do this for a while. But yeah, my awakening story is basically, it was kind of like a recipe, because what happened is that it happened when I was 33. I just got out of a 7-year relationship like a year prior, but it was still really affecting me to the point where I was going to work. I would take like a liter of vodka with me to work every day, and nobody had a clue that I was drinking the whole time. And I worked in a kitchen. I've been a head chef. I've been kitchen manager. That's what I did for almost 20 years. I started in the kitchen at 13, and I'm 35 now. And I live in one of the poorest cities in the country, in Syracuse, New York. And it's kind of like a black hole, so everything just compiles on. And it's a similar story for a lot of people, but I kept getting to this edge, and I didn't know, because I'm still 35 and I technically don't have a car. I'm staying at my mom's house, all this. And I always thought, like, I played by the rules of everything. So what's going on? So at 33, I finally got to this point. Like, I was at work and I was like, you need to get me out of here. I'm going to this festival with my cousin. I'm going to do a bunch of drugs. She was like, all right, I'll get you out of here by 4 o'clock. Like, she knew something was up, and she knew by drugs I'm going to a hippie fest. So yeah, I asked her to get me out of work early to go to a festival with my cousin on that day. And my cousin was trying to get me to come up to his camp for like every summer for probably 2 years. And then it just so happened on that day. This is before I knew about synchronicity or anything, because I didn't know about any of this before my awakening, as I like to call it. And I learned it was a near-death experience after the fact, like when I started digging deep into that. But so she lets me go early. We get to the festival, and at this point, at work, before I went to the festival, this was a couple days before, I was supposed to sell a bunch of like Adderall or generic Adderall, but I ended up taking pretty much 18 of them while at work in a 6-hour shift. Like, just kept going. I'd run downstairs after cooking, go back down there, do it again. Yeah, it was getting bad. And even my close family and my friend are like addicted to harder drugs at the moment, which there's not really a running joke in my family, and it's kind of sad, but it's like, if you sit in the shit too long, you get used to it, basically. Like, stops thinking.
Yeah.
So the thing in my family is that we're either really good at doing drugs or selling drugs, and you can't really be good at both, because monkeys can't sell bananas. I learned that the hard way. That's one of the big things that I learned. Yeah, but I also learned that I had to go through all these stages of even addiction, because those are the type of people that we discard and all that, and we have to sympathize with people. Like, there's individuals, you know what I'm like. But again, this is after the whole awakening happened, because sometimes I can't even recognize who I am now to who I was and right before 2019. Like, it's baffling. But we get to the festival, And then we start drinking and then start basically doing coke, like just normal stuff that we would do. And then it got to a point where I remember getting to this car, trying to paint the picture. We're at the festival, don't know anybody but my cousin, and he's the one that brought me there, that got me to go there. He's a huge, intricate part of my whole life, and then my awakening afterwards, like, and all the things that have happened afterwards. But we get there, and I get to the point. I remember going to the car, and I'm going in to do a line, but then I look over and I see these guys in front of the car, and they're ripping a little piece of paper in half, and I'm looking probably 10 feet away. I'm looking over at this dude. I'm like, how do I get some of that? And the dude that's standing in front of me, he's just like, just go ask him. I'm like, all right, yeah, simple enough. So
yeah, all right.
I walked over there. Yeah, there's two just white kids standing there with this. I was like, how can I get some of that? And they had a 10 strip ripped in half, and then they hand me one half. Like, here you go. I was like, you guys want some money? They're like, nah, take that. So I eat that.
A whole half?
Then, yeah, I took about 5 hits at once. And then, here, take this too.
What?
I was like, all right. And then I took that too. Like, it was, yeah, I've never done that much in my life. I didn't get into psychedelics till I was about 25. I've done mushrooms at 21, like once or twice. And that was the good whole fun experience or whatever. And then I didn't get into them, like into acid and stuff, till 25. And the first time I did that was at work. That was interesting.
How in the world?
But we'll get into that part afterwards.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I took the 10 hits pretty much all at once at Sterling, and I was already pretty much drunk and high. But then, like, it was either, to me, in hindsight, it came to the point where I was either gonna OD on some other shit, or this was gonna happen, basically. Because, like I said, it was all a recipe to get me to go, and there's no better place for this to happen than at this love festival, basically. Like, it changed my life. I remember when it started, like, everything started to happen, like the trip started and like, as I'm walking around the festival grounds, I keep seeing my cousin, and then kind of familiar people I've seen from earlier. But when you get to a certain point in the trip, even if you do a little bit of psychedelic, you start tapping into the subconscious. So, and I've noticed that afterwards when I'm talking to people, like even when they're drunk, I can like read through their fate, all that, and see who I'm talking to or what I'm talking to. It's interesting. I love it. Like, this has made me feel more alive than anything in my entire 35 years of life. But so that the stages and the awakenings kind of happened in like stages, sort of. But since time isn't really a thing, it's kind of jumbled together. But I can vividly remember certain aspects that, like, this thing that happened was more real than me and anybody standing in front of me having the conversation. It was the realest thing I've ever been through. I felt like I was home. And I only know, like I said, that it was basically a near-death experience also was because of the stages that I went through in it, pretty much. And I've done like nonstop research into almost everything that I can find, from the Anunnaki down to all the ancient, all the theology, everything. It's on the list, so we'll get to that.
Yeah, man, we'll
but
get
in
to
the
it.
awakening, what I do remember is walking around the fairgrounds, and then this whole, like, everything started to seem like a horror movie. I mean, this is when it really started to like kick in. It's just that eerie feeling like something's gonna happen, like because there were stages and everything set up, and then when people started to disappear or wasn't around me at all, like, it was, because it's an eerie feeling because you don't know what the hell's going on. I mean, I've never taken 10 hits of acid since or before that or anything. I mean, I've done DMT and all that, but that's a whole,
Oh, snap.
like you said, 8 minutes compared to, I was in this state for at least 8 hours straight. Like, and I had a spirit guide, but there was also a physical person with me that I've never met, but he was protecting me the whole time. Like, it was unreal because I met him the next morning when I like came out of it, and I was like, I've never. And they feel so for like I felt like I've known him because I have known him for 1,000 lifetimes. That's why he was there. Like, yeah, it was
Very cool.
like I'm shaking now even thinking about it. Like, it was the best thing that ever happened. I don't suggest people go do that because
That's right.
like I was having my biggest tower moment of my life. Like, I was supposed to marry this person, like, and my whole world crumbled, and I just kept like, again, if this didn't happen to me this way, then I would have OD'd in another way. Because at one point I was snorting Opanas, which are like the strongest opiate pill that you can get that they don't even like make anymore. And I was doing coke at the same time. Like, my buddy's like, you're like speedballing, right? Like, you're doing this upper. And then I was like, no. I was like, that's what Chris Farley died from, right? He was like, yeah. I was like, that's why I feel so good. I was getting bad. Yeah, it was bad. My buddy that does certain drugs looked at me. He was like, I do a lot of drugs, but you do a lot of different drugs, and you probably shouldn't do that. I'm like, yeah. He was like, it's not like naming a star. If you mix these two things and die from, you're not gonna get to name it. Like, it's not how it works. Like, yeah, it was just bad. Like I said, at 33, I wanted to be married, have kids. My family has that. My brothers had that type of shit. But now I know that I'm not meant for that normal. Like, it's not truly what, I mean, that's what I want is love and all that, but not there. I'm meant to go out and travel and try to spread the light or what, like.
Yeah, I feel you, dude. I feel you on that, like, all the way, especially just like not having the normal, it just, I look at the normal and it's good. Like, the house, wife, kids, things like that, like a normal career and doing that whole thing. And like, I like that. God bless anyone who has that and anyone seeking that. There's nothing wrong with that, obviously. I just noticed that to me, there's just this sense of adventure, this sense of like I know this information, and it's like I feel like I'm being drawn to this this course of action. Yes, exactly. It's like a calling. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel so stuck right now still, and like I may not be. There's a good song out from AJR. It's called "Way Less Sad." Like, I may not be as happy as I want, and that material doesn't determine any of that. Just where I'm at and all this, but I'm way less sad than I was. I used to go to anger management. Like, I used to take everything so personal, like it was meant for me, especially with my ex. It was like, when I fall in love, it's over. Like, after the awakening, I figured out all this stuff. Empath, like INFJ, I'm like, all this stuff resonates so hard. Like, I figured out more of myself in these past 2 years than I ever have my whole existence. Because even as a male in my family, I'm different than most of the males that are competitive. Like, I don't even watch sports. I'm not in any of that. I draw, play the ukulele. Like, people love to laugh about that because I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. Like, but that's my favorite thing too. Like you said, wearing the Rugrats or 90s hoodie, but I can go out and then just get into people's heads, literally. Like, once I'm in there, it's over. They try to block me out, I just go in. I can tell you what you're thinking. Like, all this stuff just started kicking up, and I've embraced it because I've got another cousin that went through it a couple months before me, and then I figured it out a couple months after my awakening that she's going through she's like, I've been to the other side. That's where I'm getting to in the story next. And then, like, because you can tell the people that you can say this stuff to. Like, you don't just walk up to people and say, you've been to the other side, right? I mean, I do, because I know who I can say that to at certain times. Or you've seen, and then I'm wearing a Rugrats hoodie, and they're like, how the hell did you know? I'm like, I don't exactly know, but once they just start going with it, it's on. I love it. Like, meditation has changed my life. Like I said, that day I died truly saved my life. And there's the saying, I think it's from Brian Maru. I can't remember. He's a writer. He's got a book, but it's if you die before you die, then you don't have to die. Something along those lines. And as soon as I heard that, I was like, holy shit, I know exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So Yeah, back to the actual awakening process, or the NDE. I remember there was a band playing at the festival, and this is where it really started, because I walked up to them when the trip like really started, and I'm just standing in front of them, and then I'm looking at my hand with my beer in it, and I literally remember my whole arm turning into something that reminds me of like robotic or like the Matrix, and it just started like breaking apart. And there's light emanating from outside of my hand and my body, and then my whole body, it feels like I'm turning like so, and then everything just starts breaking apart and light just starts shining through me. And then the next thing I remember, which I'm surprised I remember like I remember just like turning into a ball of light and then being shot straight up into the fucking universe. And then I remember seeing my body underneath me just laying there with beer like next to me. And as quick as that happened, somebody, from what I can remember at the festival, actually got me up because security was coming over to check on me. So all this from what I can remember, simultaneously happened as far as I can tell, because in that space, past, present, and future is all happening. Everything's happening at once. It's just different vibrations or different frequencies. Like now, there's a whole new world's happening right around us that we don't see. Unless you do a bunch of psychedelics, like that'll help get you there to
Yeah.
but we can't all handle it. Like everybody needs psychedelics, but psychedelics isn't for everybody. Like,
I
but
agree with that. Yes.
I remember this happening, yeah, and I remember this happening, being shot up to the top of the universe, and then being picked up by somebody at the same time because security was coming over. And I remember standing up and security was like, "Are you all right?" And I'm in two different worlds at the same time. This is all hindsight now, because when it's happening, I'm surprised I can remember most of this shit, honestly. Like, but they're picking me up and they're like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "I ain't gotta tell you my fucking name," because like when you're in this other world, like I was being tested too, because there was like reptilian people that I seen. Like I was straight face to face with them, like get the fuck out of my face, screaming at them. And the spirit guide that I had was there protecting me too, and but physically to a real man, because this was a real dude too. But you're seeing like a different face of them, like their true self. Because to me, when you do psychedelics, like since this is all an illusion, this all fades away. Especially when you do DMT, all this shit gone, and then you're in the other realm. Well, you're up there, but you're really in here because it's all in here anyway. Like
Right.
everything that's out, and it, like yeah,
Indeed.
but I love this. Is what I live for. This is what I know my true path is. Like so, on that realm, I'm getting talked to by security, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And all this, I just remember in my face looked like the Men in Black because they got the earpieces and all that, and I'm tripped out of my mind, like obviously, like or in my mind, I should say, more than out of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But they're trying to ask me if I'm like I'm more alive than I've ever been, and then I just start dancing. But even in that sense, I'm tapping it down here. And then I remember being shot up to the top of the universe. I remember this more vividly than anything. And I've told all my family, like, and this is stuff you tell people and they think you're like, you would think they think you're going to be crazy, but I've figured out that all the people that are like close to me or around me already know something about this. They just don't know what it is. And then for me to come out speaking it, it reaffirms everything. Like, and my uncle that passed away, he knew about this stuff, but he knew a little less, but he always treated me different in the family too. Because I found out his oldest daughter already knows about all this shit and she's been burdened with it her whole life, and how she's seen it, because she's always tried to use her powers or whatever for her own, and she's always had to pay for it. Like recently, she's like, "Oh, I got rid of her," and then next thing you know, she got fired, and so she resents this. She doesn't know. She's never had anybody to guide her to this. Like, and this just happened to me. Like I said, at 33, but I know I had to go through all these lows, breakups, all that to be compassionate to people, to show them love, like unconditional love, like. It's crazy how much I've learned in fucking 2 years. It's been insane. But my brain's working. It's amazing. I know I'm not here. I'm not a mistake. I know there's no coincidences. I thought I couldn't have kids because I have no kids too at 35, and that's all I've ever wanted. But they're like, no, you just can't have them in this mindset because it's not going to work. Like, we need you. Like, I feel like I'm the hope in my family that keeps us connected to the other side. Like, we keep our ancestors alive. We're the ones. Like, we're whatever, the 144,000 or whatever it may be. I'm not really into religion, but there's facts in all of it. Like, I still have to read. Now I want to read the Bible. I have to. Like, I have to. That's one of my next things. The Book of Enoch, I'm getting into that. I'm like, this is home. Like, this makes so much sense.
Right.
It's crazy. Yeah, I've even figured out. All right, we'll go back to the awakening.
I'm just letting you go, man, dude. Go where you want to go.
Yeah, this is what I don't to do with many people. I do it with friends and stuff, and they sit there and listen, but then they get on their phone, and I know they're still taking it in because it's all seeping into their subconscious. And I know I can't force awakening onto anybody. And I have all the available things. I have the DMT or you know what I'm saying? But I know, yeah, exactly.
You can't say that live here.
Well, we're not live.
So can't let them know we have the materials.
All right, that works. So let me reset back to right where we were before that.
Indeed.
But being shot to the top of the universe. I was sitting at the concert. It was actually with this group called Dirty Blanket, funny enough. But I felt like when I was in that state, I was having like a personal, like, what is that? Where he battles the devil in song, basically. Like, it was them versus me. Just
like Devil Went Down to Georgia sort of thing.
Yeah, something like that, actually, because they're like a jam band, but it all played into it because that's what I learned when I got shot to the top of the universe, and I'm up there with this. I don't remember seeing like a being or anything, and we're not speaking, but it's all telepathic, like what everybody usually talks about. It's just coming in, and I'm up there, and it was a male voice at that time, and we're looking down, and I could just see like the earth and this like almost pink tornado of chaos that's going on, and just from a top view down, and the voice is like, you see that down there, all that chaos that's down there, you helped create that. And then just the universal, the one consciousness. Like, I came back from the whole experience walking into my friend's house like, I am you, you are me, we are one. He was like, you sound like the Beatles song or something. Something. I was like, I am Walrus or something. I was like, I've never even heard that, bro. I don't know what you're talking about. One of my best friends, he thought I was good. He was like, I think I lost my best friend. I think you went crazy. Like, he doubted me more than anything. And I walked into his house the next day, and his mom was like, you look like you're lighter, like you're glowing or something. Like, and again, this is all hindsight. I didn't know what any of it really meant then because that was the next day. But so at the top of the universe, and then I come back down. And I think that's when, because I remember being brought basically to another, or the other side is what I call it. And when I got brought over, I remember it being between a mix of Falcor from the Neverending Story and the Rescue Rangers bird, who brought me over to the other side. Because what I also figured out is that they make you feel comfortable with whatever you're used. You know what I'm saying? Like, even the first people that I met on the other side, the very first person was my Uncle Bob, who I'm actually named after. And I learned a year after my awakening, like, I didn't realize it, but my Uncle Bob passed away that same day, August 29th. August 29th is when it happened. 11 years earlier to the day is when it happened to me. And he was the first one to meet me on the other side. And like, my family has memories of my Uncle Bob, like with like with his hair and all this. But again, it's what I've learned is that whenever you meet, even in your dreams or whatever, when you see somebody that's passed, it's how you remember them. Most beautiful, you remember them in their prime. Right. So your family might see the same, but they're gonna see it the same to how they remembered them. So I seen my Uncle Bob over there, my Uncle Jim, which is his brother who had recently passed, and then I met all these other. It was more like mouse-ish people. It was people, but they kind of looked like mouses in a sort of way. It was like the movies I grew up with. Basically, is all I can affirm that type of thing too. But they were all familiar. I felt like I was more home than I've ever felt here. Like it was the most beautiful feeling. And then I remember being like back at that concert or a concert in that whole setting. And I remember being in a crowd and stumbling back, and then this larger woman, big fat lady, just grabs me and hugs me, and I'm sitting there like on the verge of crying and laughing, and I'm like, I don't know what to feel. She's like, you know why you don't know what to feel right now? Because that's unconditional love. She said, just let go and feel it and just hug, like, and that was like pure bliss, whatever that Kundalini away. I didn't have that on this realm, but on that, like, that's a full body, like, orgasm, like your whole, like, it's, oh my God, like that was greatest thing. I was like, this shit is drug. Well, technically it wasn't drug free, I guess, but it was free. But yeah, it was like, I've never felt anything like that in my life. And that's, oh, go for it. Bless you.
Yeah, you're all good. You're all
Or
good.
just,
You said you said his drug free. No, I get what you're saying. Yeah, it's free. Yeah.
Just like when the Wim Hof breathing, like that was, I was like, holy shit, that took 30 minutes and it was free.
Shit. So yeah, tell me about the Wim Hof breathing, and then we'll dive back Wim into Hof the
breathing, I got into that just from seeing them on, I think, like Vice and all this, and it's just like it clicked in my head, like not for the psychedelic effect, because I didn't know that was coming like that. Like synchronicity basically is how I found him, I'm pretty sure, but I'm interested in all the Vice documentaries, but that's how I found him. And just breathing, and then I started looking up like the yogis and watching different videos on YouTube, how they do I don't remember what the hell it's called, the type of breathing it is, just it's like, circular breathing,
like yogic breathing,
your belly,
your
chest, and then breathe out. I
think it's called a yogic breath.
I guess they do the fire breath and all that too. Wim Hof has some YouTube videos where you can follow. It's like 10 minutes. So I did that about 3 times on the porch, and then instead of just following his like breathing, I started just breathing in deeper and harder myself. Like, I guess it's probably oxygen deprivation is a part of it, I'm sure. But and then you hold like what they would call the Kegel and all that too. It's supposed to bring the energy from your bottom chakra. It's supposed to do the Kundalini up your spine or whatever to bring the DMT trip into your brain.
Yeah.
So I did that for probably 30 minutes and then just held. And I'm sitting on my front porch, and everything just goes like bright pink and green, and I'm in a spiral, like I was not on the porch anymore, that's for sure. Apparently somebody came and knocked on the door and was like, couldn't get through there because I didn't know what was going on. I don't remember that at all. They went to the back door like, is your son all right? He's up on the porch breathing weird. I was like, yeah, it's some spiritual stuff or something. Because again, I'm in like the hood of my city, so it's pretty interesting. That's why I know this needs to be said out here, like especially out here in my city. Like, it's because all my friends, like, they're so close. A lot of people do so much spiritual stuff that they don't even understand they're doing because they don't know. Like, my cousins are master manifestors. Like, they've got no problem having money, seeing something, they want it, they let it go, and then it's theirs no matter. I know you don't, people always say, oh, well, he did this and got this. Well, yeah, but that's part of the problem. Like, you gotta not expect the outcome. Like, and my cousin's got an amazing imagination. Like, he's got 2 kids, so when he's talking about Frozen, he's like, I was in there shoveling snow off the damn mountain for these kids. Like, he's immersed right in it. And I know imagination is key in manifesting, basically. it's key to life. Like that's what we're missing. Like the solidification of our not imagination that was part of the downfall of man. Like, yeah, this has led me in so many directions. Like I've read 13 books since the end of July. I haven't read a book since high school. And then I was just like, all right, let me pick these books up that I have. I started with the Black Arts. I think it's Richard Cavendish, Black Arts, and then I got into the secret societies, or the history of the world according to secret societies, and then that literally just blew it wide open. I've got countless books that I'm still going through. Like I'll send you some of these suggestions.
Oh yeah,
for
definitely.
Sure.
I'll read them.
So,
Cause I went through that same
like
thing.
About reading too. You said you like to read a book until like to a point, and then let it like sink in. Like that's I guess kind of how I do my psychedelics almost. I'll do a half or a head or something, and then like that's even how I figured out like I had deep abandonment issues was after a trip. Like it was the next day after a trip, and then I'm watching a YouTube video about some lady who adopted a kid and then tried to give him back like a year later. And my dad really hasn't been in my life, but he's been around. And then like once that hit, which is something I always kind of knew, but I'm like, I had like a deep cry for about 20 minutes, just let that shit go. I was like, that was like 20 years of therapy right there. And that was amazing. Like they never seem to fail to amaze me, that's for sure. But you got to be careful with them. Like that's a big thing. If people ain't ready for it, that's because I've had people come up, oh, we should do it. I'm like, let me actually kind of evaluate where you are in life real quick. Yeah. And then we can go there. You ain't going to do that with me.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm always careful of. Like I respect psychedelics and I notice their importance, their ability to awaken people and like show them like how things really are, you know, to give them that experience. But I'm one that's very cautious. I'll say this. Just because like on a normal basis, like it feels like I'm on a boat on a normal basis. Everything sways, walls breathe. Like that's how I am normally. And so to even smoke weed is just like I'm off somewhere else. And it's a hell of an experience.
You know? And I wish maybe because I didn't start smoking weed till I was later, till almost 19, 20. And that I guess that's what I figured out about addiction too, basically, or at least my addiction and probably most people's, is the intention that goes into it. Because I know there's a Harvard professor that does like heroin or whatever, but he does it on his off time and his intention isn't to escape. Like that's what I've come to the conclusion. Like when I was doing cocaine and all that, like every time I'd get stuck into it was to escape my reality, because I've also done it at a point where it was more social. Like I was hanging out and then we did it and then there was absolutely no issue. But again, this was after the awakening too, because people think when you go through awakening, you just come back as pure, which you do get a whole body reset. Like when I came back, I had no craving for the opiates at all. None of it. Like maybe weed, because I've used that for so long. It's been 15 years or something. And then I just started getting into that other shit. But like it gave me a complete reset. There was no craving afterwards and none of that. But this 3D matrix that we're in, it gets real heavy and condensed when you go back into the same environment. So, and then people slip up and then they beat themselves up. And that's another big problem too, is that we beat ourselves up. And that was one thing I used to do all the time, because I had an ex too that would call me a white trash piece of shit and all, like just go in on my personal all the time. Even when I argued, I'd scream, but it was never personal attacking. Like it was just that narcissist and empath relationship. And then I got blamed for everything. And then I felt like it was my fault, which then it became my fault, that it's because we held on for 7 years. Like it was probably done after the second year. Like, but I didn't know how to let go. Like that was one of my biggest things. I don't know how to let go. And then I went through that, and then I went through my awakening, and then I got into a relationship a year after like the awakening to see, kind of because I like the person, I've known them for a long time, and then but they were getting like, so when we got into that, then she became who I was in my past relationship, and I seen that, and I was like, oh no, we don't want this no more. So I basically broke the cycle because my two exes previous almost looked exactly alike too. Like my family's like, holy shit, like what the hell? They always confuse names even still. Like,
So what are you doing?
yeah, exactly. When you're in it, it's yeah, you're blind to it. When you're born into it, you're blind to like it's yeah, just like us here. Like we don't know we're in jail or basically in slavery here.
Yeah.
They make it look real good, but
Oh, yeah, it has to. You know, they try to hide the walls so you don't think you're in prison, but like alchemy says
yeah,
that our bodies are the prison without walls, you know. We're captive
absolutely.
because we believe that these bodies are all that there is and that we aren't anything more than
Yeah,
this. You mentioned Kundalini
kind of.
earlier,
Hmm.
and I wanted to make a statement about that. So you were doing the Wim Hof breathing because I find Wim Hof breathing to be very interesting. It's like that pranayama, but also the incorporation of the Kundalini technique. I remember doing the exact technique where you like clench that muscle down there. I think it's like
Yeah,
perineum or whatever it's called there.
yeah,
And
yeah,
then like your lower stomach and then your upper stomach and then you kind of like hold the breath at the top.
yeah. You
Imagine the
make
energy
them
going
go
up.
up the chakras.
Yeah. Uh, I don't remember how long I did that, but I remember doing that and sitting with it, and I was just feeling the energy, and I was like, "Wow, this is pretty intense stuff." And then I started to feel really, really high, like I had
Yeah,
taken
oh yeah,
something,
yeah.
and you know it was going on, and I was like,
And
"Oh
you get
shit."
euphoric.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
You know, I was like, I had to open my eyes.
yeah,
Like, what's going on here? Like,
yeah,
gotta calm down. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to like disappear. But it is very powerful stuff for sure, and it's free, like
yeah.
you said.
And
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. That was the and it's our breath. It's what we need. Like that's why I love all this. But there's so much. Like it goes into me always trying to think about getting back into the present moment because it's just like a to-do list. I find so much to do, and then I don't really end up do. I end up watching like a video game chasing video instead of trying to get deeper into what I need to be doing. But I know that's the monkey mind. That's the like the ego mind, basically trying to hold on to who I am still. Who I think I am is this, because
Exactly.
that's what it was in the whole awakening, the complete ego death. Like everybody needs that, like because everybody like so black and white minded. Because I was in the same spot. Like my best friend's one of the hardest ones to get through to because he's my best friend, so I care more about him. So it's harder to say certain things at certain times and all that. But he's exactly who I was, so I know there's hope for him to get through this other side. But I also know that I can't rush anything. You know what I'm saying? Like we can't make anybody do anything. We think we can make people do things, but we cannot.
Right. Right.
That goes to like learning about stoicism. I just got a book from Einzelganger. I'm pretty sure he's got a YouTube channel.
Hmm.
I'll have to send it to you. It's really good. It's for like modern day stoicism, basically. I got it. Well, I had it sitting here, but I guess not. It's yeah, it's modern day stoicism, and he wrote it right before like the pandemic. But
Oh.
like all the books I've been reading have been just like compiling. Obviously, when you read more, you learn more. But I'm actually able to retain a lot of this and see where it goes into even watching movies or shows. I'm like, wow, I watched was it Martin Lawrence, The Black Knight
Hmm.
from 2001 last night, and at the end of it, I'm like, wow, this movie's about a near-death experience. Like, it's exactly what it's about because he falls into the water, and then at the end of the movie, he's like, you were in there for 10 minutes, but he goes into this mystical land, and when he comes
Hmm.
back, he's a completely different person and everything. I'm like, how many more movies? They're all about this. Like, kind of. It's all the hero's journey and everything. Like
Yeah. Yeah. You know
now it becomes so much more obvious. But
the interesting thing about like growing in spirituality, I found is that the ego likes to create an identity out of being a spiritual person, and this is why I feel like the
oh yeah,
present moment
absolutely.
is right? It's very useful because so you'll take this experience that you had, which is an amazing experience, um, and you'll go from that experience and you'll start to try to take the pieces of it and put it together to create another type of identity. The ego is always trying to create an identity, and it's like, oh, we'll be spiritual, I'll be the spiritual guy. But what the present moment does is it regards everything as holy, divine, and sacred, whatever it is that you're experiencing. So even if you were just chasing that video game, or you were just watching that scene of like a game chase or whatever, like that's what you're supposed to be doing in that moment, because in that moment is still bliss and everything. And the ego will try to pull you away from that. Be like, no, 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 it's not this, it's not that. You got to be reading to have this.
Should be doing this.
Yeah.
Because what I learned about the ego is that, with the ego, I've learned, like, we have at least two voices in our head. At least it's the ego and then the true self. Like, the ego is, I want to be more spiritual. I want to do this. I want to do that. And the true self is like, I gotta eat. And even in that, you can still fast, but just in that saying, like, it's like, I need water and stuff like that. And I have a couple more than two voices in there, but even in that, like, I know I'm more interesting than most people I'm around. I don't dislike them for it, but I catch me talking to myself all the time. My buddy's like, you might want to watch that. People, I'm like, bro, that's like sign of genius. Just because he's the glass more like half empty, but he's a great like counterbalance to me that keeps me in like check too. Because I'm like, if I can help this dude, then I can help anybody out here. He's one of the hardest ones to get through to, but he needs it. He wants it. He's right there. That's the thing. We're all right on the verge. This is the quickening, or basically, like, it's happening everywhere. It's a part of the native prophecies. My family's native from Syracuse, which we're Onondaga, Oneida, the Haudenosaunee, which is right where like democracy came from in this country, not like started, but from right here. Like, there's so much stuff that happened in upstate New York. Like, even the ley lines, I started learning ley lines and all that. And Onondaga Lake is one of the most polluted lakes in the country, if not the world. But it's right in the viscous places of these ley lines too. And I got a whole book right here from this guy. I've got to see it, Mattis Center. It's sacred places in upstate, like in North Star country, but it's got all my area through it, and it's all where the ley lines are and where they put all these sacred places, because we have the great tree of peace on Onondaga Lake too, and that's where the term "bury the hatchet" came from. Was right there where they all dug up and threw all their arrows, hatchets, and all that with Hiawatha and the Great Peacekeeper.
I see.
That's what I'm digging into too, is a lot of my native roots. And I have old English roots or some medieval, something like that. I'm like, I'm trying to get into that with the dark and the light side, because I know one side of my family is like Templars and the other side is like all native. So that'd be the light and the dark. I don't necessarily believe in good and evil. Like, even demons and all that, I just believe they're misunderstood. That's the problem. That's it.
Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know too much about ley lines. Could you describe that to me?
The ley lines, I'll have to probably send you something on it. But as far as I know, it's when people go dousing and stuff like that with the two metal rods, and they find where like the water flows. It's like it's a whole, I guess it's a whole planet. It's all across the globe pretty much, as far as I can tell. I'm not too deep into it yet. But they say the ley lines is where they put all like the churches or anywhere of worship. Like, even in this book, I haven't read it all yet, but each city has its own chakra system in a way too. Like, where like the finances would be is in this district. Like, it's pretty interesting. Like, I'm trying to get deeper into it in my area. But if you go to this, it's called Mount Olympus on our Syracuse University. Up on there, it's one of the tallest spots in the city, and then you go up there and you're supposed to be able to look at, I don't know if it's like the equinoxes or in a certain direction, and see the lake, how it lines up directly, like straight through this system, the chakra system or points or whatever. Right. I'll have to send you some files on all that stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. So what's your experience with past lives? I know that was something that that we were talking about before.
Past lives. Yeah,
Yes.
past lives. One thing that I didn't truly believe in before, but in the awakening is when I got a taste of that from what I believe. And it's going to sound weird to a lot of people, probably, but this is, and I love saying it because it's so off, not even off putting, but in one instance in the awakening, I remember being a cabaret dancer, definitely in like the 1920s era. Like, and I just remember being on a stage looking down and I could see basically like stockings on my legs and just seeing lights everywhere. And then I go into another instance that was kind of the most part I got. I remember being on a stage doing that. And I remember with my face down like this and being like, just seeing flashing lights all around me and saying, this is for little old me. And then I'm into a different past life, but this one was, I was still a performer. And it's, again, this is going to be weird too, but it was more like an alien form, but we were like bugs. It was like bees almost is what I can kind of remember, but still performers, still in like a Wild West setting at that point, but as this bee creature thing and being on a stage again. And then that kind of dissipated. And then at another point in the awakening, have you ever seen the movie Lucy?
Oh yeah, of course. One of my favorite movies.
And now, and at the end of the movie, when she goes like, and everything starts going back in time, I remember that happening vivid, just a big, seemed like a huge screen and just going back slowly in time to the point where there were dinosaurs and shit. And I'm just sitting there on like a rock with my guide or whatever. It's just me and him. And we're just like talking as this whole thing just keeps going around us back in time to almost where it ended up with her.
Yeah.
And again, this all happened in different stages and different points, but these are the things I can vividly remember. Like I was there, it was real. Like, and at another point, I remember being underneath a tree, like a huge tree in like a jungle setting. And this is when I was talking about with my guide having me being able to have kids and everything, because I never thought I could, but I know now it's like something, my DNA got activated. It's like, now you can, and it's not, I haven't met anybody yet, but it's like, now that you're in this new mindset, now we can work with that basically. Because I remember one of the first things being said to me when I went to the other side, coming off of Falcor's back, was, I almost thought we lost you, kid. Like, and the dude that said it was, I can't remember his face, but it was like a father figure. It was somebody that was so familiar. And they've been trying to get me, they as in the other side has been trying to get me into the occult basically since I was 20 years old. My uncle is in the Wicca. I moved with him at 20 and that was the first start of it. Like, they've been trying to get me to this side for so long. And then they're like, I almost thought we lost you there, because I figured if I didn't go through this, I guess, trip or OD at this time, then I would have really OD'd on something else.
Yeah.
Like I would have been, because I remember also being sent back here from the other side. Because I know there's like they say three options. You come back, or you get sent back, or something else basically. But I got sent back. I remember being on this line on the other side, and this side being, he's like, you can go this way, you can go back and go crazy, or you can go to this side and you can go back and you can learn something. And I was like, oh, that's it. So I started dancing back and forth on both of these sides. I was like, this is an easy choice. And then just jumped on this side. And then, like I said, I've been diving into this, the deepest I've dove into anything in my life. But my problem is focus on one thing and do it like all the way through.
Yeah.
Because I'm just kind of scattered, but that's.
Hey, don't get too obsessed with that. I'm real scatter-minded as well. I'll start a myriad of things, but it's like, because you only need portions of those things to keep moving. Like I've described it before on the channel. It's like Tarzan trying to swing through the jungle. Like, he's not going to go on a straight line. He's going to grab this vine, go and grab that vine, and, it's going to zigzag him. But eventually, like, you'll move forward regardless. So just...
It comes full circle.
exactly. But the other
Yeah.
side, you've got me interested. What meditations do you do, if any, that get you to the other side, or that get you to experience your like your spirit guides? Because tons of people ask me that all the time.
I was gonna say I have it directly. It's the other side. When I went through my awakening, I was like there in it. Like it was rolling beautiful hills, beautiful like garden that you couldn't describe to anybody. The colors, the shimmer, like it's the most beautiful thing in the goddamn world. But here, when I'm sitting on my mom's front porch on the west side, I'm trying to get deeper in the trance. I know you talk about that. I've been trying to astral project and like really get to that point, but I don't know if I can say I smoke a lot. So that I know that's part of the thing blocking me from the astral part, like getting there. But I've been to the point where I'm like laying there and I can get almost through like what seems to be clouds, and I'm about to pop out on the other side, and then I guess I get too excited. I know that's a thing too, is when you actually pay attention to those feelings and then you snap yourself out of it. So,
It can be
but I
complicated.
just
Yeah.
I do, yeah. Like once I get it, that's pretty much that's good where I'm at. Like my best friend, every night he goes to sleep, he has the most lucid dreams in the goddamn world. That freak. I'm like, bro, you can do something. You can do that instead of getting freaked out by it. You can actually, yeah, all right, yeah, I got you. I'll try it. I'm like, you're not, but I understand.
You're not,
But
but whatever.
every time, every day, it's a continuous thing. So one day I know it'll hopefully finally get there. But I honestly use sometimes the binaural beats you got because I know they're actually real.
Mm.
Like I didn't even do that for a while, like what you said, like take one ear out and then put the other one in. I was like, damn, I didn't even think of that. So
Yeah.
some of the
Yeah.
shit I could have been using was bullshit. But I've been using there's an app, I can't remember what the hell it's called now, Mind Doser,
Mm-hmm.
and they
I
have
think I've heard
different
of that one.
levels of so I've been using that. And I use a lot of guided, but even again, like you suggested that your voice could kind of throw you off. And I've been noticing that now with certain ones that I've been doing too,
Mm.
is that their voice will throw me off right at the point when the drum's
Yeah.
going off. I'm like, shut the hell up. But
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had a few people tell me
I know
that.
that's yeah. And I know, like I said, I know everything that we ever need to know is inside of us, but it's getting to that frequency or vibration. Like even earlier, I did a meditation before here, and I got it to the point where I don't know what they call it, tinnitus or whatever, like
Yeah,
the
like ringing in
deep
the
ringing
ears.
in your ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this was on purpose, obviously. Like when I hear that tiny squeal in my ear, I know I'm more connected to the like now I got the little frequency going off, and it's like a wave that hits like up here somewhere. But that lets me know I'm a little more connected than I usually am because we're always technically connected. But
Yeah.
for us to be the antenna for that, like,
Mm-hmm.
so I did it there, and I kept getting the pitch in my ear to go higher and higher, which I've never really been able to control like that before. So that was
Interesting.
interesting. That just happened a little while ago.
Very
Like I
cool.
said yesterday, I got a download. Sadly, I can't even remember what it was about, but it had me in tears. And I know those things always come, and when I get those, they come the next day or a day after, and I get that little eureka moment. Never nothing really too big yet, but
Yeah.
I mean that's why I'm still sitting at my mom's house. But I mean, I can still be happy about that because I know bigger things are coming.
Indeed.
That's the thing my friend doesn't do. That's where his problem lies, is the beating himself up, so he gets drunker and then just deeper and sad. I'm like, it doesn't got to be this way. Yes, it does. I'm like, no, it don't. He's like, all right, I know you're right, it don't. So he's trying. So I give him that.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel that. Yeah, definitely with like living situations, you and I are not very different in that regard. But
Yeah,
it's just accepting the present is what I've noticed
yeah,
to help
absolutely.
a lot. Is just that, and I mean, you talk about the occult and like Wicca and different things like that.
Mm.
Being in the present moment, I found, doesn't mean like everything's going to be boring. It just means like you're getting in your way mentally from experiencing what's already here. And
Absolutely.
there is a lot of cool stuff going on, especially with like magic and things like that. I'm relatively new to magic. Only been a few years that I've been like really diving into it, but especially now the past few months with the people I've met. But it is very interesting, and it's like the further I move into it, the more I'm like, man, this is just a video game, like that we're playing here. You know,
Yeah.
this is just the Matrix. You know.
I just found more of a Neville Goddard too. Like I found him
Mm-hmm.
previously, but then I found I think this kid's name's Elmer O'Locker,
Mm-hmm.
and his grandfather has DC, but he's like teaching it in little bits, and it's like everything that I've been learning, but now he's kind of showing me how to implement it more. It's the have you ever heard of the don't climb the ladder technique? It's the whole subconscious, like you think about, you put it on your phone or you put it everywhere that I will not climb a ladder the whole time. Like all day you look at it, and then 30 minutes before you go to sleep, you visualize in your head climbing a ladder with all four, like just up and down till you fall asleep basically. And then you're supposed to do this for a week, 3 days, something like that. And then in his story, he's like, what do you know? My mom called me, and then I got to take a bus over to her house, and then my dad's on the roof, and then he needs paint. So I'm, next thing you know, I'm up on this damn ladder. So it's basically your thoughts become your reality, usually by using your imagination. Like Neville Goddard, I think he's more Christian based or something like that, but
Yeah.
obviously you can seek the religion if you need to. But yeah, it's been, I'm working on that now. I just started it a day ago, and it's all this stuff that I've already learned in different ways from different people, but they kind of put it into this easier technique to try out, because he's like, and then whoever climbs the ladder, then they have these deeper meetings and all that, like, and he came out in what, the 50s or something like that, like. But these are all techniques that, it's just like the story of Jesus and all that, and then the story of Horus and all, and it's all the same teachings, just in different perspectives.
Exactly.
And I can connect all these things together, and I'm like, oh yeah. Then the secret is the feeling. Like you gotta believe in it, you gotta feel it, you gotta actually be it. Like, and then there's that fine line of like toxic, what is it? Toxic optimism or something like that. Like, be happy. Those are the people trying to force themselves to be happy, and they know they're not. Like, this is something completely, maybe not completely different, but it's all how we interpret this shit. It's like just like the Bible. People take it literally, and then they get this story, and then people take it this way. Yeah, and it gets tiring trying to explain this to people.
They're all telling the same story, is what I've found. And the further I've moved into my own awakening, the more I found like man, like I can actually go back to the Bible and understand it now. So one of the things, especially, I've been kind of thinking about. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, that's why I'm interested in the Bible now, because I'm like, wow, now I can actually get into it more.
Yeah, definitely. Very interesting. So, you're in New York, you said, right?
Yeah, yep. Basically upstate mid New York.
Okay. I mean, I know someone else out that way that was on the podcast, Mr. Business. So I'm trying to put together loosely this documentary that I want to make. And so I'm trying to like pinpoint places to visit. So I may come just like kind of crash the place, especially if you have the materials.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that can be arranged.
If you've got the DMT, I'd be interested in giving that a shot. I've tried it before, but I didn't.
I've got all tiers of those. So
yeah,
I remember you saying.
Yeah. So, what was your experience with it? Do you take it often?
With DMT? Actually, no, not DMT, which is kind of surprising, because I know when something comes in your life, it's for a reason. Like, that's what I do know now. Like, and even I look for these little hints. I'm like, all right, give me something that tells me that I should do this. And then on my phone, like, it'll pop up, or I'll like look over at it, and it's like, what am I? It's like, that's why it's there. Like, because I'm not using it for the blah, I'm using it to actually like Joe Rogan said, delete the old files and then reboot the computer. Like that's like, because all this, again, with any drugs, like it's no drugs are bad. Nothing is bad. It's how we use them. When we use it, that's like, it's the same thing. Like it's all subjective shit. Like, and it's not easy, but it's not easy, but it's simple when it's like discovered that way. Just like even the intention, I do something, I'm like, it was really that easy. Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy or that simple when I figured it out or whatever it is. But I guess that's why we work towards something to make it easier for us. But with DMT, I actually, after my awakening, I left my book bag at my cousin's camp on accident, which had DMT in it, which he gave me a whole gram of it at that point, because he only does psychedelics with me. That's it. He's like, but he'll find them or whatever it is. But it was a week later, and I get home and I'm like, all right, I'm finally gonna try this, because I've tried to get it before and do the pancake method with
like layering
weed,
it.
but but we like burnt it, so it didn't work. Like it wasn't. I was like, oh well, that was a great experience. Let's try that. Like, yeah, it was bad. Didn't do anything. So then I got one of the like vaporizer pens where you normally put the dabs in or whatever. So I just put it in there, and that definitely works. That the first time I did it, I was sitting in the backyard in like my stepdad's Braga chair, like recliner chairs or whatever, and I hit that probably 3 big times, as Terrence McKenna would say. And the first thing I remember from that is looking up, and the housetops looked like kind of like pyramids almost. So when I closed my eyes, I instantly went to Egypt. Like it was, I could just see the pyramids in my whole vision. And I remember crying for my people. Basically, it was a sadder experience. I didn't really see too much, but I just remember being there. And that's why I even have the eye of Ra now. Like I believe a lot of our karma comes from Egypt. Like, and I found out after you die in Egypt, you're considered a Westerner. And I'm like, and even in Native American tradition, the West is the darkness. And I live on the West side. And that's why even Hollywood in the West is the darkest of all of us, or whatever, of our directions, I guess. These are all the little synchronicities I put together in my head, you know what I'm saying? May not make sense to a lot of people, but they make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess, yeah, it's I got a bunch of those that go real deep, but we'll get into that at another time. But DMT, I did that for almost probably a week straight, because no psychedelics are addictive, but when you have an addictive person or brain or whatever, like anything can become addictive. So at one point I was doing like larger, which you can't really do acid back to back to back like that, because you got to double up and then double up, because it's draining all like the serotonin in your brain or whatever anyway. But I'd still try. That was the problem. That's when I knew. I was like, that's my brain kick. That's my ego mind kicking in. So now I can learn to check that. Like I can yell at it physically. Like everybody should do it, but that's when one of them thoughts come into mind, I'm like, shut the hell up. Like just yelling at myself, it doesn't matter. But it works for me. I'm like, once I can identify that and move on. It's the same with emotions and feelings. People get stuck in that shit. And again, a lot of this comes from learning from like the DMT experience, or probably more of the awakening experience, but they're kind of one and the same, because in the Spirit Molecule documentary, there's like a shaman in there, and he's talking about his experience. And one of the things that I said was to my best friend, I felt like I lived 1,000 years in that experience. And that's literally like, because we're not like learning this stuff, we're remembering everything. Because you said we're here having a human experience, we're spiritual beings. Like this is just a vehicle for what we are here. Like in that, like DMT has taught me a lot, and I did it for like a week straight. I got a lot of experience. I got a bunch of stuff written down somewhere. Again, scattered all over the place. That's part of my problem. But it took me I seen Nefertiti in that experience. And then I got brought to another experience the next night I was sitting out back again, and then I remember this cold chill coming through my whole body, and I started shivering like really bad, and I got it recorded somewhere. And I just seen the whole like globe, and then I seen it just frozen over, and then just like atomic winter type thing. Like, and I just started crying. Like, it was, if we keep the track we're on, that's what I got from it, is that this is what's going to happen. Like, and even every time I did DMT, I had like a specific set of questions, and every time I came back, they all got answered, and it was always a different experience every time. It wasn't, it was, and then after that, I've only done it once the other day since a year and a half ago, basically. And it's because it's powerful shit. I mean, to me, it's like it's you're going straight home.
Yeah.
Like, but it's a good feeling too, because even when I did it the other day, I have one of the carts, and it's not as strong as if you would get the actual DMT or whatever. But you definitely still feel it. So you get that first, like you're on fucking Willy Wonka's elevator shooting out of the roof of the building, like that, like you talk about in astral travel, which I've only actually been able to do it like once or twice, is to get my body feel like I'm flipping around or falling or whatever. Like that's what I'm trying to get to more, even in my meditations now. Because once I did that because I don't have anybody guiding me, so I'm looking like then I found you, and then I hear you say these certain things that I haven't heard other people say in like the astral videos about that, like make yourself feel like you're falling. I'm like, I've done that, but I didn't know that was a good thing.
That's
kind of basically a sensation.
I was thinking about coming up with a
there was 1 week
technique, or I was trying to put one together for astral projection where it revolves around some of the other techniques I have, but it's, you'd wake up in the right position and the right like mindset after having done everything you needed to the night before, and you would kind of just relax further and further and feel yourself sinking. So it's just a really simple technique, but using that, I've been able to astral project in like 30 seconds or less, just waking up and just relaxing into it.
Once.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what it was. On my couch, I've done that once where I felt like my whole, like I was sinking into the couch. Like I was like, what the hell is going on? Like, and then like my body was gone, and it freaked me out because I tried to get up from it and with my arm, but a different arm got up. My physical arm was down here. I remember seeing another arm get up, and I'm like, what the heck? And then that brought me right the fuck out of it. And then there was 1 week where I felt like something was wrong with my heart or something. Like I felt like I had vertigo all week. And every time I would lay down, as soon as I closed my eyes, I'd feel like I'm in a fucking forest flying. And then that would, like, as soon as I closed my eyes, and then I felt like something was wrong with me. I had my mom checking on me. I was like, make sure I'm still breathing, because I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah.
And that's the feeling that I've wanted to get to, and I can't get back to it. I was like, damn, I missed my chance. That was like last year. I don't know what was going on. It was during the full moon on Halloween last year. It was like one of the rare moons we haven't had since 1944.
Interesting.
I know the moon affects me a lot. I'm a double water sign. Like I'm, again, diving into all this astrology, numerology, life path 11. I'm all in on this.
Dang. The information. Indeed.
It goes for days, and I don't have people to listen, so that's why I got to do my channel. I know I have to get used to talking to a phone.
Yeah, man. It's like as simple as that. Like when I first started my channel, there was someone who, like, I saw his videos on like he was doing like occult stuff and teaching magic. And I saw his videos and I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I'm a video editor. I'll help do this or whatever. And he was like, sure, make a video about this and I'll put it on the channel. And that's how I started my channel. And I think I got like 100 subscribers after like a month or so. Yeah. So yeah, man, make a channel, dude. Make a channel. I'll send people over
I
there.
got one started. I'm trying to learn how to do the banner art and all
Mm,
that. Like, I know I'm like overthinking it and probably making it more
probably.
complicated than it actually needs to be, which is another thing. This is a good book right here for that right there.
Yeah.
Stop overthinking.
Yeah.
I just read that. I'm like, yep, I need to get into that. Um, but yeah, I'm trying to get into channeling. I'm trying to go to I think it's IANDS. It's the near death experience like conference. I'll have to look up to.
Oh,
There's a meeting next week I'm going to for that.
interesting.
It'll be my
Interesting.
first one trying to get around. So I'm trying to find more people part of the soul tribe and all that. Like,
Yeah, man. Tell me
I
about how
go to
that goes.
breathwork
Definitely.
class. Yeah, for sure. Because I got a friend that actually just went through a bad accident and she's going through. So I'm trying to get in contact with her to bring her to the same thing. But she's like in the beginning of all the stage to this now.
Mm,
But you got to have those type of people around. Like, I'm
yeah.
even thinking about getting into an adult. It's adult children for like of alcoholics and narcotics and stuff like that. So it's
Mm.
like just people that I guess can relate, which I don't really reach out to people. Like even this for me is a huge step. So,
Oh shoot. I'm glad I could
but
help.
every reason,
Yeah, man. I appreciate your experience. I feel like experience is one of the main things that kind of helps other people listening to start taking steps in the right direction for them, or just mainly to let people know that they aren't alone in this. I was like I always say it. That was
absolutely.
one of the main reasons I made this channel, was just to let people know, like, hey, this stuff is real. You're not alone. You're not crazy. Like,
I
this is
was gonna
just how it
say
goes.
I'll send I'll send you the thing I put on Facebook, which I don't really put anything on Facebook, but I wrote a huge statement on there. Even people can check me out on there if they want. But it's
Hmm.
basically about that. That this message is for anybody that needs it, because you're not alone. Because we all feel like everybody I've talked to, when I get into my modes and I start talking to them, they're like, you're hitting it right on the head. And all I'm really saying is everything that's going on with me, because we're just a fragment of one another. We're all one and the same thing. I tell people all the time, the trees breathe out what we need, and we breathe out what the trees need. Like animism is one of my biggest things I'm getting into now, just because the being native and everything is like, those are our ancestors, those are our grandfathers, those are our family. Like
Hmm.
everything out here is something. And then even magic and all that is just like quantum physics. It's just like technology mixed with quantum. That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's real. Like it's the thing I tell everybody: magic is real, and go self love. What I tell all these people with all these cars, money, even my cousins that got money and stuff, like, can you go in the mirror in the bathroom and just go into the bathroom, look in the mirror, and say, "Rob, I love you," and mean it, and actually mean it.
Hmm.
Everybody's like, "No, I can't do it. I'm a bitch." I'm like, "You're not. Stop saying that. That's the biggest thing."
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because their
I'm like,
words
you
are
got,
killing them. You know.
yeah. Oh yeah. Words are swords, basically.
Hmm.
That's Words are powerful. There's a TED talk that I'll send you. She's really good. But she said that. She said, "I challenge you. If you don't think words are powerful, then go home and take one word, and you can never use that word again or anything associated with it." And she's like, we'll say zebra. So you take zebra and anything associated with that word, and you can never say it again. And that right there should show you how powerful one word. It's got its own universe all in itself. Like, yeah, she's really. I can't remember her name right now, but I'll definitely send it to you. I cried through that, like it was amazing.
Hmm.
That's when I know when something hits. When I start crying, oh, it's the best in the world. I go
See,
to
that's the
breathwork
best.
class.
Uh,
Yeah, I go to breathwork class, and I'm in there with like 6 females and maybe one other guy. And the teachers like, once I start going, I'm in it crying, fucking. They're like, "I love when you cry, because then that helps everybody else release." Because again, I'm 6'4", 240 pounds. I look like a
right.
bouncer, but I'm in there crying with every. And they're like, "Oh, this is what the world needs." I'm like, exactly. Like, people need to
Hmm.
be vulnerable and just let go. Like, let go of your shit. It's crazy.
Indeed. Indeed. Shoot.
One day we'll get there.
Right, man. Well, hey, Rob, I'm going to go ahead and close us out. It's been an excellent conversation.
Absolutely.
I would say stick around afterward, but we're not live. I'm still getting used to the change, but I'm going to go ahead and close us out. So that's going to do it for another episode, guys. Thank you so much for sticking in with us. I'm going to have Rob's YouTube channel down in the description below. Just go support if you guys like his message, what he talks about. You want to learn more about his story, what he does. Just go ahead and follow him there. And you can also find him on Facebook as well. I'll have the links in the description, so no problem there. And if you guys want to find out more stuff about the Astral Mind podcast, how you can help, consider becoming a Patreon to support that. Any comments, suggestions, anything like that, leave them in the comment section. I love you guys. I'll be there. I'll answer them. And if you guys are looking for any counseling, coaching, astral projection, this, that, whatever, magic stuff, you know where to reach me. I'm still doing that. And blessings, love and light, namaste. And as always, never stop adventuring.